Hello, world. Welcome to the Elise Morgan Experience, and I can't wait for you to meet my next guest. If you think I have a big, bold, energetic personality, wait till you meet Phil Januszewski, and I hope I said that right, a tattoo-covered Netflix baking show flopping, high-energy chemistry physics teaching keynote speaker that is on a mission to create and spread happiness through education, motivation, and entertainment. When Phil is not speaking, teaching, or creating, he enjoys everyday adventures with his wife and two children and pursuing his personal passions of fitness, baking, networking, and personal development. And if you ever get a chance to meet Phil, be prepared for a great deal of positive energy, love, and passion. Welcome to the show, Phil. And folks, I'm telling you, if you think I'm wild and big, wait till you hear from my friend Phil, who I'm so honored to have you on the show. I admire you so much, and I love what you're doing for children and for the givers in society and society on a whole, because everyone can learn from the message that you give out to the world. So thank you for being on the show.
Oh, Elise, thank you. It's my pleasure. It's an honor to be here, and I love your energy too. So I'm ready for our world to explode now that
Right,
we're together.
it's like two fires. But I think you're more exciting than me. You have more to tell, but that's, I won't do that to myself here on air. So before we start like getting into the, nitty gritty of everything, let's hear personally, like who you are, where you're from. I did mention your wife and kids, but give us a little background on.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm coming to you from about 20 miles southwest of Chicago. I'm in a suburb called Woodridge, Illinois, and I am a suburban boy born and raised outside of Chicago my whole life. And yeah, I'm married to my wife, Lindy. We've been married for 17 years now, and we've started a family. We have a home, and we're overwhelmingly lucky. The area we live, the jobs we have, the children we have, life is good, and we're just trying to soak every ounce of everything we can out of life and enjoy it because we just never know how long we have. So we're trying to take it all in, my friend,
I love that you don't say Chicago.
Yeah, no, Chicago, and I'm gonna put some syrup on my waffles and check
Yeah.
my
Well, hey,
watch.
listen, I got that heavy duty New York accent. So who am I to make fun? But we do make fun of Chicago and your pizza. It's not real. I got
Oh,
that from there. But I
I,
love how you said like soak up every part of life because nobody knows when they're leaving this earth. And a lot of people spend a lot of time not happy with where they are or what they're doing. And no, I'm a big believer in you can make every moment great and gratitude and make every moment be important because guess what? That moment passed and you never get the day back. You never get the hour back. So, I agree with you there. And I love that you are a beacon of that for society because you are always seem to be really happy. And I was going to ask you that, like, do you ever get mad or do you ever get, your kids are
yeah.
probably like, wait till you see us. But do you ever, I can't picture, and we're all like this, but I can't picture you getting like out of control mad because of just who you are and personal development and all that kind of things. But like,
Right.
how, how does Phil get mad? Because I'm so,
Yeah, that's a super great question. And at 42 years old now, I'm way more in control of my emotions than I
of course.
was at 22. So even looking at me as a public school teacher, I think of my first few years, and when I would lose control of a class, I would go gorilla and pound my chest and establish dominance and
Right.
yell. And now I'm like so much chiller. Now, don't get me wrong, every once in a while I lose it still
Of course.
and have to kind of lay the law down and I like to say establish my dominance, which I never like to do and I never feel good after. But that is my job to make sure kids are in an environment where they're safe and can learn. And every once in a while, you got to hold court. But yeah, I get mad just like
Yeah.
every other person. I get crabby. Sometimes
Yeah.
I say little shots at my wife passive aggressively on accident and have to apologize. I mean, we're all fallible humans, but I am constantly working on, just like you, trying to be grateful for what I have, trying to control what I can control, and just try to make every day as good as physically possible.
Yeah, wonderful. The way you said that, I always tell people, you only control your part. And the fact that, you're male and can apologize is a big thing. That's a whole nother podcast episode, right? So I'm
That's
kidding.
That's so funny though that you brought that up. You know what? I did a keynote in Minnesota for a bunch of special services teachers, and they specifically were behavior teachers.
Mm,
So we're talking about the kids who sometimes
yeah.
have to be restrained. But anyways, I got this feedback from a woman I never met that said, I find it, this is funny, so attractive that you admitted how big of an ego you have, and yet that you are constantly working on it and that you're aware of it. And I was just like, wait, that's a big deal to know like I have an ego and that I'm working on it. But so funny. I'm like, I never, but that's funny. You're the second person who's kind of mentioned that. So apparently that's not everyone's there. But yeah, I'm always working on myself and I'm trying to realize I'm wrong and I can get better. And I think we're all striving to get better. I think that's why you and I were drawn to each other. We obviously met through a like-minded networking group, and I think our energies naturally attracted each other.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think, when people hear ego, like I don't know you that well, but I don't think you have like an ego problem. You're just it sounds like you are aware that we all have egos and you're aware that when it's an ego thing and when it's, a soul thing or how to like navigate both because we need our egos to survive, but some people just
Yeah.
operate only there. And we all go there by accident or on
Oh
purpose,
yeah.
but it's the awareness. So I think it's not that you have an ego, it's that you have the awareness. And awareness is in my coaching is the number one thing you must have first and foremost before you can continue down the road. If you're unaware of how you show up in the world, how are you supposed to improve or help your marriage or help your relationships or help your job, whatever. So if you don't have the awareness, then you're not going to be able to get the education, get the help that you need. So my next question I have for you is kind of like what came first, baking or chemistry? Because chemistry, people don't understand, and maybe that's why I don't do that well with my recipes when I wing them because I'm not good at chemistry or physics. But it is baking is and cooking is chemistry. But as a joke, I was saying that. But how did you become a school teacher first and foremost? Was it a calling when you were young? Like how did that come about?
Yeah, it's funny that my chemistry and cooking story go hand in hand. I grew up right when Food Network just became huge, and in my house, we always had the TV on, but it was always on Food Network. That's like it was either Sunday was NFL football or there were just cooking shows
That's
on. And my
cool.
family does everything with food, celebrates, mourns with food. I mean, we all work on it in my family. It's an unhealthy relationship with food, but food is a huge part of our culture and lives and love. And I grew up thinking, cooking a lot at home. My mother's a good cook. My father's a good cook. My grandparents were great cooks, and they all taught me very well. So I thought I was going to go to culinary school majority of my life.
Hmm.
Between 15 and 17 years old, I worked in about 6 different restaurants to
Wow.
learn a bunch of different skills. And at 17, I realized that I loved it as a hobby, not a career.
Hmm.
And I was so lucky to have an incredible chemistry teacher at 17 years old, Mr. B, who I told him I just figured out that I don't want to go to culinary school. And now I have like no game plan for my future. And he was actually the one that helped me realize you seem to love school, which I did. You
Ugh.
seem to love science, which I know, isn't that weird? I loved school. I loved seeing the ladies.
Yeah, I like that for that part. Yeah,
I
social.
loved I loved my teachers. I loved connecting with them and
That's
learning from them.
great.
I've always been drawn to people smarter and wiser than me. Always. That's just been something natural about me. So I always try to have really good relationships with them. But anyways, he like a light bulb helped me realize, oh my gosh, like my calling is to be a science teacher to hopefully inspire other kids to get more into science. But like this is my natural habitat. So uh, quickly rearranged my life and went right to college, became a chem teacher, and started teaching at 22 years old. So
Wow.
this is my 20th school year now at 42 years old.
That's awesome. And I'm like almost envious because it's not, that's pretty young to realize what you don't want to do. And even though you didn't know what you wanted to do, because a lot of people may would have continued with it. Well, that's what I was supposed to do. And you realize that early on, instead of going to culinary school and realizing that you didn't want to do that. And kudos to that teacher, because I
Mhm.
wonder if you would have thought of that road or that path without him suggesting it. and it
Yeah.
wound up being the exact place and that you were supposed to be for loving it first and foremost. Very few people love what they're doing,
Mm.
and mostly teachers. Actually, I was just looked this up. There's a survey that asked teachers, I think if they were happy, and most teachers say they are fulfilled because of what they're doing, but they're not happy. So,
Yeah. It's really funny, Elise, because I don't think you know this, but about a month ago, I put in my resignation. This is my last year as a teacher, and
really,
it's funny. I'm quitting teaching to make sure that other teachers don't quit. Is that weird to say? But
no,
I'm a speaker for givers, and I want to pour into teachers and help equip them so that they don't burn out and leave because education is so important. And I've had this pulling on my heart for a really long time. And I'm like, what else can I do to help? And the only way I can think of is by going full time pouring into educators. So, after 20 years of leaving a job I love, and I'll tell you what, this is one of the best years I've ever had. And I'm leaving on a high note, and it's incredibly bittersweet. But I feel like I have to do something because that survey you read, that is so true. There's so
yeah.
many people who find the work fulfilling, but are just like miserable going through it because of the system and the setup. And I want to try to be a huge part of helping that, you know?
That's amazing, and I can see how it's bittersweet. But in a way, it's not like you didn't do a while. Like you're 20 years in, and it's a different. You're shifting. Your calling shifted. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And we'll talk about it because it's called the Positive Growth Lounge, right? So we'll speak about
Yeah.
that. And I think that's great. That niche of what you just said. I don't want to go down the avenue of what I think of the school system, but I think it's a broken system. I don't
Oh,
think it was
yes.
even, I don't think it was created to even be growth orientated for people. I think it was, I think Rockefeller was very big on creating the school system, and he wanted workers and he didn't want thinkers. And I think our schools were created to create workers and not thinkers, and to be creative. And even how I think your middle school, right? The middle
High
school,
school.
or your high school. But even for like the little kids, I don't want to go down the avenue of schools, and maybe we'll go down this avenue of like the mental state of students and the drugs that are given, and so many. And compare, I'm a little older than you, but compared to when we were younger, and I think it's because of most little kids, elementary school, most of us don't want to sit in one spot for a long time learning things we're not interested in. And I have two sons. So I always found my sons used to talk to me more and be more interested as they were doing a project, and they needed to be busy and be more creative. So I don't think schools are meant to help kids be creative. Well, maybe they are at an older age. So I agree with you. So it's so needed for you to have your expertise out there. It's not like you're speaking from observing. You were a
Yeah.
teacher. You're in the school. You see all what's the right word? I'm bad with these things. Bureaucracy? Is that the right word?
Yes, there's tons of red tape and bureaucracy, absolutely. And I think if you talk to any educator, even ones that absolutely love their job, there is so much that can be improved. So what you're saying it's not like it doesn't resonate with so
Yeah,
many educators. But the system is so big that it is hard to make big changes. And as
yeah,
you know, the world is so connected and there's so many different opinions on what's supposed to happen.
right.
So we're in a unique kind of standstill right now where we don't really know what way to go. But I guarantee you every day when that door shuts, there's amazing teachers every day that are trying to make the absolute best and the greatest impact possible with the circumstances they have, with the leadership and bureaucracy, the building they have, the town support or lack of support they have. They're there to pour into kids, and it's really inspiring. And sometimes, as you know, if you're doing something you love, but the world, or at least the view of what you see the world, doesn't necessarily respect you or value you, it's really hard to show up every day and do your best if you're not quite sure if the nation's got your back, you know?
Right. And your hands are tied to what you're allowed to do, not allowed to do. And
Sure.
um, my love hate with social media, showing all the bad teachers, let's say, giving the teachers that, I am as a even a little kid and as a grown up, you feel teachers or doctors or nurses, they become that because they want to help who they're with. So doctors want to help patients, nurses, and teachers want to help children and young adults become, great humans. And
Right.
that's why they didn't take the job to not do that. So it's it must be very frustrating. I know that just from being in school, they have this curriculum, they have to teach for testing, and that whole behind the scenes stuff, it as a teacher. So how do you throw in your creativity? And I can't imagine what it was like being or what it's like to be in your class. I probably would have been a chemistry major if I was in your class. My school, oh my God, I grew up in New York and Queens, and the teachers were, I'm no joke, many mentally ill, many just not teaching. We still talk about it to this day. So it's great to see fun teachers like you teaching pretty hard course. I mean, I think chemistry and physics, for at least me, are not the easiest thing to learn, but you can make it fun. And
Thank
also just being tatted up, and it shows people judge, right? If they saw you walking down the street, they're probably like, oh, that guy probably works in, who knows what they're saying, right?
you.
But it's so cool that you're like a chemistry, physics teacher, all tatted up. And was there a time, because you've been there for 20 years, that you weren't allowed to have like hand tattoos, or you had to cover up?
Yeah, that's a really great and common question. So I've been heavily tattooed for years,
Mm-hmm.
but I never showed my tattoos at work ever. I wore long sleeves, tie, almost every day. When COVID hit and the schools shut down, um, a lot of things started to relax. Dress codes started to relax. The world shifted in a much more casual, comfortable way, and it was kind of like, as you know, like people were dying, no one knew what was going on. And I finally reached this realization like, man, I've been teaching for like over 15 years. I have a good reputation. I'm professional. And I finally decided to do my hands because I mean, what am I going to do? Wear gloves every day to work?
Right.
Like there was like no turning back. And I was really nervous, but we had a principal that was very open and supportive,
That's cool.
and didn't bother her in any way. She's like, "No, you are who you are. You're a professional because of how well you teach." And yeah, I did it, and I was really nervous, and no one even like said anything and even cared. So it was so funny
Right.
how I built it up, and then it was really no big deal. So
Well, that's a
um,
legitimate built up, because it's about your job. It's not like you care what your coworker thinks about your tattoos. This is like your job, and like, oh, are
right.
they gonna be upset, or they gonna fire me, or they gonna, I don't know how it works. But is it a rule? Is it a rule or
So
nothing?
every
Nothing.
school can technically be different.
Okay.
But as you know, like with unions and stuff, like some people now would like claim that's kind of a bit discriminatory,
Yeah.
like as long as it's not offensive. So most places are pretty open to it now. I think the world has dramatically shifted
Yeah.
as tattoos have become way more mainstream, not
Absolutely.
counterculture. That I think they're going to have more and more hard of a time finding teachers without tattoos soon.
Yeah, I agree with you. I remember in school, one teacher, he couldn't get him past here because he had to wear like the collared shirt, and so
Right.
but now he's probably all tatted up also. So
Mhm.
tell the listeners a little bit about this Positive Growth Lounge.
Yeah, thank you for asking. So the Positive Growth Lounge is like technically my business, my umbrella. So I speak to keynote speakers, to what I like to call adult givers, humans that give every day in their jobs, and from there may not always get to see the seeds planted and turn into the forest. I love to pour into them to help them maintain that positive energy and attitude through structure in their life so that they can show up to work and life and give as much as they've always wanted to give and be proud of that and stay happy and resilient. And then another part of my Positive Growth Lounge is that I run what's called a teacher and educator membership, where we meet twice a month, educators from across the nation. We meet
Cool.
up, kind of talk about our highs and lows of the last couple of weeks, and then we always dig into personal development, just some type of positive psychology of not how do we do anything in the classroom, but us as humans,
Yes.
how are we taking control of our lives so that we can show up and serve these kids as best as we can? And it's been a beautiful family of just meeting people. We've got people from California, New York, Florida, the Midwest, Iowa, and we just come together and collaborate and lean on each other because we're all like-minded. We love education and we want to do as good as possible, but we don't want to burn out. We don't want to
Right.
leave.
And it's so important, not just as a teacher, to take care of yourself first, and to be as serene and happy and joyful as possible
Yes.
each day. I mean, like you said, you're human, you might have a bad day and you have to show up for the kids, but if you don't take care of your own well-being, mind, body, soul, you're of no good to anyone, really. besides it being a teacher. So I love that you have that. How would people, I mean, I'll put all the information in the show notes, but just so for the listeners to hear, how is this word getting out? Is there like an underground teacher network that
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
else doing like
Yeah, you know what? It is kind of just a word of mouth where friends of friends invite others to just come and check it out and be a guest. And some people organically are drawn to the group. And that's what we're doing. It's just a grassroots movement. It's not this
awesome.
thing I'm trying to have 1,700 members. And,
Right.
we're a small but mighty group of 10 to 15 that meet every 2 weeks and just love each other and pour into each other. But most importantly, like grow together. Like this is reality, just like you said. Where am I at? Now, how do I move forward? And being with people that understand your work, understand the struggles, but also want to see you thrive and flourish. It's a beautiful thing to be a part of. So I'm just the guy who's air traffic control. I set up the meetings and I always have a theme, but I mean everybody contributes and gives. It's such a nice thing. And I'm so grateful to have it in my life because it's such a joy creator for me.
And I'm sure, just like when you're coaching someone, at least or when you're helping someone, you're getting something from it. So you're getting something from there, even if when you're navigating and doing your, air traffic control. I'm sure it's filling you up also and helping you, or you may hear someone say something that's like, wow, maybe I should think about that more for myself or something like that. That's what I like about those groups, and especially like-minded or like occupation, because no one else is going to, I will never understand what it's like to be a teacher. You know what I mean? I would never understand that. So only another teacher would. So it's
Yeah.
great that you did that. And was it like a download, or was it something like you needed, or did someone mention something? Like, how did it come about?
Yeah, you know what it was? It was through the group that we met through.
Hmm.
I said, I love this from like people who are personal development, entrepreneurial like mindset. I said, I would love this for specifically like people in the education system. So, what I loved about our group that we met through, I started modeling very similar things. I just said, this is just a nice opportunity, and I wanted it to be super cost effective and just a way for us to get together. And like you said, I gain so much from it
Oh yeah.
personally. I'd like to talk about my ERS, like the things you are that fill you up, but I'm a networker and a learner. And those two buckets of my life like fill me up with that group because, as you know, Elise, you could talk about the same topic, but when you hear someone else's story and you put yourself in their shoes, like it just empowers you even more to learn from different perspectives. So
Oh,
all
absolutely.
about growth, and I'm just grateful that it exists and that our family slowly and naturally and organically grows, which is wonderful.
Well, I'm not a teacher, but thank you for having that, because I know what I can't even imagine being a school teacher. I mean, I don't know how many kids were in the classes in Chicago, but you're sitting there, they're all have going through their stuff. And that brings me to a question I probably want to ask you. Like 20 years is quite a while of seeing how things have changed over these past 20 years.
Mhm.
So, and I don't want to go down too deep into this because it
Sure.
could turn into, who knows what, but the mentality of the children are not their mentality, the mental state. Have you seen that real shift? And what do you think?
Yeah, two
Oh,
things. This generation is incredibly empathetic, more so than anyone.
hmm,
They care about other people. They're trying to protect and honor most people in the young generation. That's incredible. Number two, the tough side is that they have incredibly short attention spans due to the environments they're growing up in.
hmm,
So, attention is the biggest commodity and the hardest thing to gain from this generation currently. Now that is completely generalizing and averaging out,
right.
but you can't mention a kinder group of humans that are accepting and open-minded. But it is hard to grab their attention and hold on to it to help them, and that's just due to the environment, the circumstances they've grown up in, and it is what it is, right? We could talk for hours about what caused it or whatever, but it really doesn't matter. What
No.
matters is what's reality and what can we do to support these amazing humans that just are wired differently than like me and my generation at
Right.
42 years old.
Yeah, it's definitely different. I mean, I think, even they probably said it about our generation 20 years
Yes.
before, like these kids, but I look at it more like, and like I said, I'm not going to go down major avenues, but I'm such an advocate for not having this. And I see it so prevalent with friends and family, just the pharmaceutical drugs that are given for certain things. And I wanted to hear just a quick, do you see it so much of it now compared to, and meanwhile, the problems that maybe the children are facing are maybe the same, but now the drugs are just more prevalent. Do you
Yeah,
see?
I would say that the amount of students who are struggling with mental wellness and then also the amount of students who have unique special needs, I would say has increased over the 20 years from
Yeah.
my point of view and experience. And that I do find a lot more students that are taking different types of medicines to help with that. And I mean, we can go down that rabbit hole of tons of research of how parenting styles in general. Actually, we just had a guest on last week in the Positive Growth Lounge. She's a child clinical psychologist, and she talks about how gentle parenting
Yes.
is done out of love, but actually is inhibiting most children. They're not pushing through hard moments. They're not building resilience, and because of that, it's creating an issue where they're struggling with failure, tough situations, and they're relying on other outlets to like make it through. So it is fascinating psychologically speaking what's going on. I do think the pendulum is going to switch again eventually on how what's like typical parenting
Right.
is very interesting. Just seeing the behaviors of humans and what the parenting trends are of the time.
Yeah, I'm fascinated with that subject, and thank you for that because I reached out to her myself because from
Yeah.
you, and she's going to come on the show because I have a very,
Yes.
I don't like to say strong opinion. I'm very passionate about that subject matter. Seeing it even when my kids were smaller and growing up, and that, you know, I don't know. I didn't know they called it gentle parenting. I can give it a very vulgar, a very nuanced thing, but I won't go there. But it's just, I think people, at least I'm saying it from my own self. When I was raising my kids, parents started to want to be their friends, and there was no structure and discipline. I don't want my kid mad at me, and or let me do this for them, or just a lot of things that I was like, what are these? I always thought I was the odd man out. And I'm not saying when you beat up your kids. I think in our society, and this is overall of everything, when something's wrong, they go all the way the other way, to
Yeah.
fix it. Then they got to come back center. So I think that's kind of what happened with that. And that's what makes me sad is because, like I always speak about breaking out of the cocoon. If the butterfly didn't have to break out the cocoon, it wouldn't be
Right.
able to fly. And that's what the parents were like over protecting children to where they can't handle life. And to me, I look at it as a sad way, not like, oh, look what those people did to their kid. It's just like, wow, this poor kid is struggling just because he or she doesn't know how to feel like struggle or pain. And so I'm glad you brought that up. But it's sad that the old way to band-aid it was the drugs, and hopefully that will go off. And that's where I come in. I want to like help. We spoke about like my book. I want to get into schools just to give some tools on, if you're feeling XYZ, try this,
Yes.
and hopefully the parents will learn it as well, so that they don't go running to a doctor for every little thing, for pharmaceutical stuff. And that's hard. We live in a big pharma country. But anyway, we're going to go on to a different subject.
Okay.
I How did you start DJing?
Ah!
You were a DJ for weddings. I used to want to be the DJ wedding dancer. I used to want to
Okay.
be the person that went out and got everybody. So I'm just so curious at how you became. It's so you, though. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
So, like,
You
did you
know,
do it?
I have always loved music. I'm a drummer. I was in
Oh
garage
yeah,
bands growing up. Yeah. So music is a huge part of my life, and I love people and public speaking, and I like attention, at least. I think that's obvious.
I hate
Uh,
it.
and the microphone. So I started teaching, and a fellow coworker had a DJ business, and I started bugging him if I could just come along and help move his gear. And he realized quickly that I was responsible. I knew a lot about music and that I was really good with people. And he said, "Let me train you. We can start
Sweet.
breaking out. We can do 2 weddings a night, like let's do it." So he taught me everything for 3 years, how to run the business, how to take care of clients. He was an outstanding guy. And then it came to the point where I was able to break off on my own. For 7 years, I had my own company, and being a part of someone's like best day
Ah,
and helping with that energy and making them feel at ease that, hey, I'm gonna take care of it. I'm gonna get the photographer and don't worry, I'll go
that's
get you a
awesome.
pack of smokes and a mint, like whatever you need. I'm here to serve you. And I do love hospitality and servant
Mhm.
leadership. Like that's something that makes me very happy. So it was just a very natural job for
That's
me.
awesome.
And I was very lucky because weekends I was off being a teacher, so I could do weddings, and that side money allowed me to get tattoos without my wife killing me. So so I did it for 10 years and it was such a blast. And it really gained my confidence in public speaking
Yeah,
and taking care of people. And it made me a better teacher, and being a teacher made me a better DJ just because of the skills you got. So
yeah,
it was a win-win and a really great chapter in my life.
yeah. I'm like a little envious for that. I would have loved to do something like that. You still can, but
Yeah.
that's it's just fun. Like you said, it's just no one's depressed at a wedding usually. You know what I mean? It's fun. Everyone wants to dance. They're drinking up, and it's just like you said, people's best day ever. Hopefully, you know.
I've always had a really good business idea. So at a wedding, if you know your family isn't going to be that much fun, like some families just aren't dancers,
Right. Yeah.
there should be groups of like 8 where you hire that group to be at a table and they're like part of the wedding party. They dance and basically they just get everybody
Everybody
up
out.
and fill the dance floor. And if you have a solid group that does that, so many more people feel comfortable to dance. I tell you, if you could hire people out to weddings, like a group of 8, 4 guys, 4 girls, it could change the entire
Yeah.
like vibe. And I think that's what a great like business to be for hire to just go and dance and
I
help
would
with the energy,
I would sign up for that in a minute.
right? You could dance with grandpa, you could
Yeah.
dance with the, like, you know what I mean? But like, you get everybody involved. You dance with that young, hot 21-year-old, like, but we're getting everybody. Like, I think if anybody's listening right now, I'm not going to do that, but I think someone should do that for hire. I think
So
it
it's
would
more of
be
an undercover instead of the DJ has their dancers that go out and grab people.
right.
It's more of like undercover, like who's that? Whose side are they on?
Yeah. It's
I
like,
don't,
oh,
I
I think
don't,
they're just friends of the bride and
the
groom.
friends of the
Listen.
bride and groom. I don't know. It doesn't look familiar, but wow, does she dance good?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Exactly. That's so funny. So, what is your favorite Food Network show that you
Oh
said it's always
gosh.
on?
Yeah. Well, growing up, I Emeril Lagasse was my favorite, the essence of
Ah,
Emeril. I grew up in the heyday of like him, but now, oh my gosh, if you like turn on like Discovery Plus, there's like 30 Food Network
I
channels
know
and
it's so
stuff.
hard.
Crazy.
And
But I'm a big fan of the Pioneer Woman's cooking. Um, that's probably who I watch the most now, but all types of cooking if it's on. I'm actually though I like old school cooking shows better than the competitions. Like I
yeah,
want someone to just tell me what they're doing. I think I
and look
love
at
that.
it. I used to, I don't know if you know this. I was, I can't even talk, a professional figure competitor, which is kind of like
Yes.
building. I'll never forget that's when it first came out. I don't know when did Food Network first come out. I don't even remember, but on the plane, and you can't eat all that yummy food. I remember like watching it on the plane with what's the young girl? She was blonde. Her father was a producer. You know what I'm
Yeah, yeah,
talking
yeah,
about?
yeah.
You know,
Giada.
yes, but I forgot her last name. I can't believe it. So she was. I used to love watching her. And just recently, I read an article on why Valerie Bertinelli is not on the Food Network anymore. The Kids Baking Championship. She used to be like one of the judges
Yeah,
on Kids
yeah,
Baking
yeah.
Champ, and she herself said she misses the old Food Network. That way, you're just watching people with their recipes, and everything now is all competitions, which
Yes.
you were on. So tell the audience about your
Oh,
experience and your so-called flop, but it's not a flop. You're on there. I'm
yeah.
curious how. I had a friend that I grew up with who was also on there, but I haven't had a chance to ask him. So, how do you get on these shows? Do you apply? Is there like an ongoing audition? Like what?
Yeah, yeah. So the show nailed it that I got on Netflix. They have like open casts where you have this series of like videos you have to send in of you making a cake and examples of things that you've made, flops you've had, and also successes. And then you send it in, and if they think you're somewhat interesting and would be good for the show, they might eventually reach out. So I applied during COVID lockdown. I had the time. And then like a year later, they reached out. It was crazy, just out of the blue.
It's great.
My kids talked me into applying, and I was like, sure, I'll try. And yeah, and I ended up getting flown to LA.
That's awesome.
It was so fun. I mean, I definitely blew it. I lost, but I had such a great time, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. Even if they told me there's no way I could win, I would still do it. I had such a good time.
I can imagine. I mean, and just that, I don't know, you're on TV and you're baking, and I'm sure you were really shy about that, getting on that as well. You're very shy and very self-conscious about being in front of everyone on television. What is your favorite, cake that you make? You mentioned, I saw something on your Instagram and it looked so good, and it looked exactly what you said it was, because I said, "What is that?" And you said it may very well be my favorite thing I just baked. So do you remember what that was?
Ooh, yeah, yeah. My daughter's a Girl Scout, and she had these lemon shortbread cookies, I think, with like a lemon icing. And I said this flavor would be good as a cake. So that's what I made. I made like a lemon cream layer cake with like a lemon cheesecake filling, and
I
it
know.
was I think it was my favorite. I love citrus and cream.
Yeah.
That's my favorite combo.
It just looked so good. And just even the way you the outside of the cake, like the decoration, it's not like you just bake, it's a whole thing. So I'm a little jealous, but that's okay. So I want you to leave the audience with this. I like to ask this to my guests.
Okay.
One is, what is one piece of advice or anything that you would tell your younger self, or you wish you knew as your younger self?
Hmm. I think for me, it would be to don't second guess like your personality and energy. Um, like just be you, and the right people will find you, and the right opportunities will come your way. I was always very outgoing, boisterous, fun loving, loved life, loved people, tried to never make enemies. And I think because of that, I've learned a lot from others. I've had a lot of beautiful relationships, and I've had a lot of cool, unique, and beautiful opportunities come my way simply from just being me, being my happy, quirky, unique, high energy self. And on days when you're young and you may doubt that, I would just go back and say, don't ever doubt it. Just stay the path, keep working hard, be kind like that, and good things will happen.
Did you doubt yourself? Is that why you'd say that to yourself?
No, you know what? I think I did always have this weird, odd, strange self-confidence. I think because I grew up in such a supportive family that we loved each other but picked on each other because we were weird, but like it was like okay, just do you.
Right.
Um, I feel like I didn't doubt myself too often. And when I did, I would shake it off pretty quick. I found pretty fast that my outgoing personality served me well most of the time, as opposed to hold me back. And as my mom always said, when I leave the house, she would always go, "No sex, no drugs, but you can rock and roll all you want."
That
That's what
is
she would say
awesome.
when I would leave the house. And then she would say a lot like, "Your body's your temple, just take care of it." So I feel like having that support system, and
Yeah.
as you know, like I truly loved my teachers, and I felt like they were all mentors looking out for me. I always felt supported. So I have to admit, I didn't doubt myself too often. I was strangely confident for no reason.
Well, it sounds like because you were allowed to be you and you had, support from your parents. And I'm not going to knock everyone's parents, but there's so many people with like, their parents are bringing their trauma to their kids, and it's not a supportive environment. And you might not be not loved, but it's not a supportive environment because parents are going through their own whatever. And it sounds like, at least your mom, I don't know about your dad, you didn't mention him yet, but it just sounds like you were supportive that who you are is okay. And that's really, I like that, because a lot of, I know I really wasn't. And I am just like, I'm getting a do-over. Like I feel like I'm 20 again, because when I was that age, I was told what to do, how to act, not allowed to be that loud, boisterous,
Yeah.
because I had people around me that were insecure. I didn't know that at the time. So you were like kind of like always told to be dim and,
Yeah.
don't be you, because then I'll look bad, kind of thing. Right. So now it's like, especially from being in our mentorship program and stuff like that, it's like, no, F this. I am a bright, shining star. And if you don't like me, so be it. you
Yeah.
know, but I'm still, still contending with like, "Ooh, should I be like this, be like that?" But, I'm a big personality, as you know, and like, there's no reason for me to hide anymore. So I appreciate that your parents were like that. And I'm glad you told the audience that, don't dim your light for anyone.
No. And isn't it true, like, at least when you're excited and your boisterous self, I mean, that's when you're your most beautiful self, right? I mean, I think it's
Yeah.
beautiful when you meet people for who they truly are, unguarded and like here I am, flaws are all and all whatever,
Yeah.
but like and it's not to make people uncomfortable. It's just like on a platter, this is me. I'm giving you me. Take it or leave it, not with a chip on my shoulder, but
Exactly.
just this is what I have to offer. And I think most people, will take it. We'll take you for who you are. And I would love to see more people be like that. I agree with you.
Yeah, I think when it comes, it comes with being authentic. So if it's you authentically, that because you're a big personality, then no one minds. It's just people that are doing it because they feel they need to, or maybe fake, or people could see right through it. It's different. But when you're in like this, vibrant energy, it's contagious. And like I said, if you're around insecure people, those are the people that are going to bring you down. So if you could take that step back and try and see where that, for lack of a better word, criticism may be coming from. If you're a young adult, it's not you, it's them. So just be
Mm,
you. Always be you. And a lot of times people don't know who they are exactly, right?
sure.
High school, sometimes those years are hard, but always be true to yourself and, go within and see who are you? What do you like? What do you like to do? It's not about everyone else, it's about you.
Yeah, I was when I look back at my life, I was born with a horseshoe up my ass. I mean, I my mom is loving and positive
That's
and
awesome.
reassuring, and my father who is quieter man for sure, but very loving and supportive, but always demonstrated by action, his work ethic, his follow through from everything from parenting. If I told you don't do it, I meant it, and there's a consequence to when you do something, you do it to the best of your ability. So I had like these two role models that highlighted exceptionally two different parts of my life, and I became, a mixture of both. And because of the lessons and mindsets they taught me, it's allowed me to stay happy and authentic and flourish. So, I mean, I am forever in debt to them as they know, like they set me up for success. I only hope that I'm making them proud for what I've done so
Oh,
far,
I'm not even your mom, and I'm getting teary eyed with what you just said. You are, like it's so nice and refreshing to hear somebody coming from such a supportive, loving family. And no families are perfect, but if you're loving, support, and allowed to, like you said, your father like modeled what he does, wasn't just talking. He showed you how to be the man that he was, which helped you be the man that you are. And your mom was giving you all the support. And it's refreshing because, when I'm working with people, a lot of people aren't coming from that. And that's why
right?
they're struggling. And good for you. I wish I hope that a lot of other people have that as well. And most people who are healthy minded and, they did come from that, so that's awesome. And I'm jealous of that too, a little bit, I think.
Well, I'll take
So,
it as a compliment. Fully
yeah,
received. Thank you.
yeah, no, I admire you. I admire the man that you are. I admire what you're doing. And, if that came from your parents, that's amazing. If it came from something else, it's too amazing. But it's nice to hear that you had that support from both your parents, because I can only imagine what kind of father you are. And your wife must be an amazing mom, because that you guys wouldn't be together this long if you didn't work well together and have the same morals and how you raise your children and how you want to live your life. So it's a beautiful thing. We need more people in the world like you. So
Thank you for that.
definitely.
Appreciate you. Thank
My
you.
next question and last question is, I'm very big on affirmations.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So it doesn't have to be your or end all life long I am statement. Let's just say your current I am. Like, what is your I am statement for now, for
Mm,
your life or for you?
I would say I am curious. Uh, I am impactful. I am powerful, and I am always growing.
Awesome. You gave us four. So for the listeners, that you can use these for yourself. But I love saying I am powerful,
Mm,
because we all are. I believe we are all stars wrapped in skin, and whatever we want is within. Whatever we want or looking for is within. We're all very powerful, but we forget how powerful we really are. And I love that you said you're curious. I'm very curious myself. I'm like, my husband calls me the research queen. I'm like always researching. And it's
Yes.
funny. I didn't like school. I didn't really like school. I didn't like being told what to read or anything like that, but I do love learning. I love learning. I love like signing up for stuff and reading stuff. And so, well, everyone, listeners, if you are a teacher or an educator and you need to find out where not to pull your hair out at the end of the day or get out some venting to people that might understand you, please reach out to Phil. I'll put all the contact in the show notes. I love what you're doing. I'm so like honored to have you on the show. I had a great conversation. I think we covered everything. If there's anything else you'd like to tell the audience, please feel free to do that now. Otherwise, we're good. So listeners, thank you, Phil. Thank you so much. I hope to be in your world again, somehow, some way.
Yes.
And I wish you all much love and light, and take care.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.